Welcome back to another great episode of The Gray Area. Today, we've got a little bit of a treat for you. If you've watched episode 1 and you're coming back for episode 2, we're just improving. We're making it better. Even my background's better. Look at this. I've got an official, real podcast background. And we've got two great guests today. We want to discuss the Israel issue. What do people really feel about one another in Israel? How can we create more unity? How can we each understand the other's perspective? And we've got Yonah Weiss, who is a Haredi, ultra-Orthodox Jerusalemite, originally from America. And then we've got Donny Fein, also from America, made Aliyah, kids in the army, modern Orthodox-ish, maybe. And we're going to try to bring things together, discuss the black, discuss the white, and then come together in a gray area. And we've got a really great podcast here for you. Check it out. Check out the Gray Area on social media. You can follow us on Instagram. I'd like to thank our returning sponsor, Jacob Halberstam with BAMP, and our new sponsor, Josh Cohen with Empion. We will hear more about them later in this episode. So we've got a phenomenal episode over here, and I guess we'll see if it's phenomenal, right? But I'm getting, interestingly enough, I'm getting a lot. We just announced this 30 minutes ago or so, and I'm getting all kinds of comments. This is great. So we're going to try to bring up. The majority of them are just exciting. The three of you, and no one could put us together somehow, like Yonah, Donny, and me. Somehow people don't see it. I mean, they're excited by it, but they wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah, I'll mention one thing that probably nobody knows is that all three of us do MDY, at least Stefanski. Because I see Donny
Yonah, I didn't
every
know
day.
You do MDY.
I know. Well, yeah, I figured you didn't know. I've been anonymous until this moment.
MDY.
Are you the anonymous donor?
I'm not the anonymous. Whenever I've donated, my name is on there.
I actually saw this morning the MDY credit card charge. I do the monthly.
Yep.
I'm not a big MDYer, actually. I'm a big fan. I'm a major fan. I think it's absolutely incredible. And I try to learn. You know what? Why don't we add this to the topics and we'll talk about it soon.
Okay.
If we can get to it.
It's one of the schusim of living in Eretz Yisrael.
There we go. All right, let's not get ahead of ourselves, Donny. Relax.
One thing at a time.
We've got Donny Fein and Yonah Weiss. I'm still wearing my earpiece. Excuse me. Donny Fein and Yonah Weiss. Now, it's interesting because when I posted it, someone said, wow, that looks just like John Hamm. And I'm like, Yonah Weiss, John Hamm. So I looked up John Hamm. He doesn't look like Yonah Weiss whatsoever. It's very, do you know what I'm referring to?
I don't know who that is. No.
Donny, do you know John Hamm? I think it's Mad Men.
Yeah, I've watched it. It wasn't one of my binge watching shows, but I don't know if I finished the series. Chas v'shalom, I should have Netflix, but
you never want to finish a series because it just gets worse at the end. You want to a little bit. Also, in terms of Gashmias, you don't want to Zerch L'Charbon, you take. Right, you cut off the end.
Right.
Yonah, it's a joke because Donny looks a little like John Hamm, or John looks like Donny. Obviously, Donny has the Yiddish Chain, so he looks much better. Well, can we talk about beards? Because last time I started with a beard, and people told me it was very cringe and awkward, and I like cringe and awkward. And I just think, I'm looking at Yonah's beard, I'm looking at Donny. I think Donny has the capacity for a Yonah beard. Huh?
I could probably grow a sick beard. I actually I had a Corona beard. It wasn't like Yonah's. Yonah, that takes years to...
It takes years, decades at this point, really.
I think I went...
Decades?
2
decades. I went a few months through Corona. When Corona started in Israel, we were on serious lockdown. I said to my kids, I'm not shaving. And it was the longest I've ever gone in my life without shaving. Way longer than Sphira. It was like 3 or 4 months. and it got pretty thick. When I look at pictures now, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's. I like the way it looks. I just don't like the way it feels. I just don't understand how people can have all that on their face. Like I actually prefer to be totally clean shaven.
I would love to have a big Yonah beard. By the way, I'm serious. My DNA. Do you know that? You know how people are doing like the hair implants? Some people are doing it on the beard. They're growing yes. I don't know about from people or religious people. In general, in the world, people are doing that. They make that perfect. So you only got you just saved yourself like, I don't know, 20 grand in beard growing fees. I'm not gonna.
All my kids have beards. Just all my boys that can grow beards, they have beards, and they all look older than me.
I mean, your son in the army. What's his name? The oldest son.
Ozzy. So he's my number two. My oldest one he's 21. My oldest is 23. He's out of the army, and he also has a beard.
Wow, you don't look like a dad who's got a son who graduated from the army.
Yeah, it's wild.
So I don't want to go into the whole like introduction and who's who. Like I don't care like where you're from and what you like your background but I want to jump straight into things. Like first of all, I want to shout out to Asher, our amazing producer. He does a lot of work behind the scenes. What work? I don't know. Whatever. He does a lot of work. So he shared the link with us, didn't he?
Among other things, I'm sure. Yeah.
No, Asher does invest a lot of time to. We're growing this thing in the background, and we're building a foundation here. We've got a plan. So you should be honored and privileged to be here. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
Can we jump right into it? Aliya, Yonah, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Southern California, so Los Angeles, more specifically, the Valley, if anyone knows. And I came to Israel for the first time as a junior year abroad study program, believe it or not. And I went to college in San Diego and did a junior abroad. And I ended up loving it. Spent most of the time learning in yeshiva and went back for a final year in San Diego and then immediately got back on a plane, literally. Didn't even wait for graduation. Had the diploma sent to my parents' house. Wasn't really interested. Wow. Came back to Israel and been here ever since. So we're talking 22 years, I think, 23 years at this point.
So you're a lone soldier, Yonah.
So to speak. I guess so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Donny, where do you come from?
So I grew up in Brooklyn. Then we moved to Staten Island. And then when I got married, we lived in Queens. And then we bought a house in Cedarhurst. And then we made Aliyah from Cedarhurst. We're here 14 years. 14 years straight.
So you made Aliyah. So let's talk about sacrifice, right? Because everyone wants to know. The hot topic now is everyone should make Aliyah, and you could do it like Nefesh B'Nefesh says it's shayach, and I'm curious. So you made Aliyah at you were what, in your late 20s or early 30s?
I was 32, and it's funny when I actually got here. Yeah, I had kids. My oldest was 9 and 7 and 9, 7, 4, and 5-month-old. When I got here, I was 32, and I actually looked into joining the IDF. But they said when you're over 30, they won't even look at you. They're not interested. I actually have a friend who was very serious about. He wanted to join the IDF, made Aliyah after he was 30 also, and he pushed and he pushed and he pushed, and they allowed him to do basic training. He got lawyers' letters and everything. Very unusual case. He was relentless. I was just like, I'm happy. And now that I see what my kids actually do in the army, I'm so happy to not be in the army because I would not survive a day. He did basic training, and now one day a year he goes to he does reserve duty for whatever industry he's in, and he considers himself part of the IDF.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. So but let me go a step further. You sacrificed. You came with your wife and kids. who was living in Israel at that point from your family?
So at that point, I had two sisters here. I had planned to make Aliyah for a long time. Uh, Basically, it took me 9 years to convince my wife to make Aliyah. The day after September 11th, and this is it kind of relates to how I feel about Israel today. Not that you asked, but I'm going to tell you anyway. The day after September 11th, we were walking in Queens. I think we were pushing a stroller. My wife might have been pregnant. I could be totally off about that. Either way, and I said to my wife, we need to see the writing on the wall that our grandparents didn't see in Europe, and we need to move to Israel. And she looked at me like I was crazy, and I kind of shelved the idea. And then I always knew the end game was I grew up in a very Zionistic home, went to Yeshiva Flatbush. We marched in every Israel Day parade growing up,
Really?
and then yeah, very Yeshiva Flatbush. It's every camp that I went to, it was all
Yeah.
about Israel.
Wait,
That's
so
that.
Donnie, do you know our friend? Wait, do you know our friend Levi Pavlovsky?
No, I do not.
That's crazy. I'm going to introduce you because he made Aliyah, and he's from Yeshiva Flatbush, and he's, I don't know, maybe 2 years younger than you. Great guy.
Right.
You need to know him. Yonah, I feel like
Okay.
Yonah knows him.
Doesn't sound familiar.
Where does he live?
Yeah. So I don't know. Not
It's also
RBS.
pretty good place.
By the way, Yonah,
Okay.
where do you live, Yonah?
I'm in Yerushalayim,
Yerushalayim, right?
Jerusalem. Yeah, I've never
You're a Kodesh.
lived anywhere else in Israel. Yeah.
So, Donnie, you're a big proponent of Aliyah, right?
So
Obviously.
I am a
He's not
big
even
proponent
answering.
of Aliyah. I am a big proponent of Aliyah, but I'm also a big proponent of making Aliyah for the right reasons. For example, I know a lot of people are saying now you should make Aliyah because it's crazy in America, it's crazy in Europe, and to be honest, like me making Aliyah was out of love for the land. The push was 9/11, and I saw things in the future. That was but I came here, I think, for the right reasons, and it's what's gotten me to stay. If I came here out of fear, then I don't know that I'd be here. I'll never say it's easy to make Aliyah. My personal Aliyah, especially in the first 10 years, were extremely difficult on every level. We've been through the ringer here with our kids, financially, you name it. And but we persevered because we were here because we love to be here. I mountain bike. As soon as I got here, one of the first things that I picked up was mountain biking, and I haven't stopped since. And we joke when I fall off my bike and I'm on the dirt of the land, I literally almost like roll in it, because I don't know that everybody sees it, but for some reason I can see it and I can feel it, the kedusha of the land. So as somebody said to me recently, who made Aliyah recently, said to me, they go, I made Aliyah, but not for the reasons you think. I'm like, I'm not like, I'm not judging you, whatever reason. He goes, no, I didn't run away from anything. I ran to something. So if people are going to make Aliyah to run to something, and every Jew has what to come to, that's the reason to make Aliyah.
Yonah, are you in your circles? Are you at all influenced by the Aliyah in terms of the Aliyah movement? Like we should leave America behind and embrace Israel, Eretz Israel, or the state of Israel, or both. Is that at all in your lexicon in your network?
I would say it for sure is, and I have a pretty broad lexicon, if you want to use that word, but I don't think that's the correct word. If you have a pretty broad network and group of people
in terms of like the things you say.
No, I mean, it doesn't come up too often because, to be honest, I don't have that many conversations with people outside of Israel who are considering Aliyah. But it's definitely something that I personally feel very strongly about. Obviously, I came here, I live here, I love it here, and can't really imagine ever living anywhere else. And for many reasons, a variety of reasons. One of the foremost reasons, I think, which often gets overlooked. I mean, Donnie talked about just the kedusha, the ability to feel it. it's very difficult for someone who isn't here to actually, or who hasn't visited, to understand, or you can't really define the kedusha, the actual spiritual connection that we have as a Jewish people to this place. I mean, and especially when you go to the holy places, if you tune into that spirituality, that side of yourself, it's unbelievable. It's not like anywhere else, and it does take a certain sensitivity to be able to feel that, to be able to understand that. But once you get there, I mean, it's just like anytime you leave the country, if you have to. For me, I rarely do, but when I do, you feel it. You actually physically and spiritually feel that difference. And it may take some time until you recognize that, but for a lot of people, it's overwhelming. You come here, for people, almost everyone, they go to the Western Wall, the Koisel, for the first time. You just feel it. People cry. It's emotional that you can't even explain it. And that's the thing. It's spiritual, which means it's beyond Tam Vadas. It's beyond logic.
I love that. I think Yonah needs to become a rep for Nefesh B'Nefesh.
Funny story, actually, true story. I was on the first flight of Nefesh B'Nefesh, but I was not officially part of Nefesh B'Nefesh. After my wife and I got married, literally the week after, or during Sheva Brachos, we got married in Israel. We flew back to New York for my wife's sister was getting married like 2 weeks later in New York, and we flew back. But we ended up staying for a few weeks. We visited California, my family, and etc. And then we actually needed a flight back, and it was really interesting. And we got offered a flight with Nefesh B'Nefesh. I guess they needed to fill the plane or something like that. We actually got a free flight with Nefesh B'Nefesh, even though we weren't officially part of the program.
It was for their pictures. They needed to, like, that whole
it could be
aisle.
Could be, but that was in 2003, I think.
We'll be right back to this episode with Yonah and Donny. But first, so I've got a friend. His name is Jacob Halberstam, and Jacob has a course called Become a Money Pro. He teaches you precisely that, how to manage your finances like the rich. You can stop stressing out about money. You can stop the confusion and get clarity on your finances. Sign up with BAMP today and use Gray75 for $75 off. Right back to the episode.
Yeah.
So this sounds all like rainbows and unicorns, and I hate those types of podcasts. It's way too inspirational. Can we mix it up a little bit? Because
Let's talk about the challenges, because there's tons of them.
And Donny, we have a couple of mutual friends from RBS. I don't even know if you know one of the other guys that rants on WhatsApp. I think you do. Yeah, Donny, you do. No, that was Aliya. I don't know. Either way, it's I don't want to say. So I'll tell you after. So
text it to me.
So I feel like I'm like, wait a second. You moved to Israel. Let's just take Donny's case, right? And it's similar with other people. You moved to Israel. You had two sisters there. It's like me moving to Lakewood because I have two sisters there. Grew up in a school and in a home that discussed this. Like the ultimate goal was one day we're gonna make Aliyah. Like I grew up. One day we'll go to Miami. You know what I mean? I didn't.
Sorry, that's how you grew up.
I didn't really, but yeah, right. So judging others, I feel like there's a lot of people get a very judgmental. Oh, you have the Golas mentality. I'm like, what are you? Just because you're in Israel, you're not in Golas? Like your pride parade in Tel Aviv is way bigger than ours. So like, don't go there in terms of like, see, I like how Yonah puts it, and even Donny rolling in. I got the visual rolling in the dirt, because when you tap in, it's the same thing. Like almost, or you can actually see the example, like at work, right? Two people can be working. One taps into Emunah, and like he sees like Hashgacha and everything that he does, and you know what? I lost that customer. It's great. I guarantee you that guy would have like not paid or whatever, right? Or I just gave tzedakah, that happened, and you really tapped in like the whole day, everything you're doing. And it's the same thing. I feel like if I went to Eretz Yisrael and I lived there, and I don't know, Erev Pesach, I'm going to go burn the chametz. The entire country is burning their chametz with me. It's like you're not like just doing
There's
your
community.
thing alone. It's incredible unity. So that message I love, but the message of like, what are you doing there? What am I doing here? I have no one there. I have not one single family member there. What do you want me to do and my wife to do? Like we should just be alone there by ourselves. Now, if you're broke, or if you have no family, or if I don't know, you're fresh to Judaism and you need like that support, or you have a yeshiva there and a Rosh Yeshiva, or you grew up in that culture. You're judging people that are. It's not apples to apples,
Right.
and it's not like all the rabbanim of the world said, guys, let's go, we're exiting. So it's really a personal thing that there's a collective of hundreds of thousands of people that actually did the move, and there's a collective, but it's really a personal choice that people are making due to their circumstances, and I feel like once you've made that choice, you feel like almost like everything else, like can't you see how amazing it is? How can you still be there? And we're like, no, I don't know. And you see people saying, oh, you see, it's dangerous. No, it's not. Nowhere is as dangerous as the state of Israel per capita for a Jew. However, we still want to be there, and tourists are still going there en masse because we don't care, because this is our land, this is our people. We want to be with our people when our people are in trouble.
Right.
And they are in trouble. And why God is doing what he's doing, that's up to him. But we are together. We're united. We're a people, and that's where our people are, and that's where we're going to be. Like, you don't want to compare it to the Holocaust, but it's almost like, you had certain leaders that kind of left their flock and escaped. And then you had others that says, no, I'm staying here because this is my place with you. I think that's really the message. It's not like, there was a protest in Teaneck. I'm like, okay, there was a protest, but if you move, you're gonna have missiles raining on you, or sirens waking you up and traumatizing your kids. Now, that's not a reason not to move. In spite of that, people are making Aliyah, and they're heroes for doing that. But you have, to me, I'm dominating the conversation. I'm just saying, to me, this is.
I'm waiting for the question.
Argument.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I'm waiting for the question. You're making a lot of statements, making a lot of sense.
My point is that I like Yonah's approach, and I think Donny is 50-60% on that also, or maybe 70+% on that side also. Like, it's not about Galus is over, like Mashiach is here, and we have to be in Israel. It's like, you're lucky if you understand the beauty of Israel and you make the move. Good for you. And if you don't get it yet, it's your
I think
loss.
that's an important point that you're bringing up, and I think you said a lot of things there, and there's so much to comment on. Probably Donny has a lot to comment on what also, but I'll just pick let him have his say. But I want to pick on one thing that you mentioned there, and it really is it's obviously, if you have that background and you have family, and it's going to be easier for you to get that. But I think people all around the world, and this really goes for everything, every mitzvah, everything in the world, I believe, Hashem puts in our hearts, in our minds, an idea to do something or to want something. And we have these desires for whatever it is, whether good things, bad things. And that's the only way that I can really explain it, how someone who is totally, has no connection, doesn't have any family, Hashem put the idea in their head, and they have that feeling, and it's a spiritual, it's a nefesh, it's something that's beyond what they feel. And that's, you see people, yes, they don't have any family. Yes, they may not, the culture is extremely different. Maybe not in RBS. I don't know. I never lived in RBS. I've heard it's very American in certain areas, but other areas.
You haven't gone to the Shir?
I've never been to the live Shir, no.
Donny, like immediately after this call, do me a favor.
Seriously.
And I'm going to watch.
Saving you a seat tomorrow morning.
I'll watch that episode. So, Donny, by the way, you're both. So I hear you, Yonah. It's again, it's I agree. It's an incredible level, and I also feel like when you're on that level, you don't really look down at others that are not on that level, you're on an
Well, again, I
elevated.
don't think it's a level. I think, it's a gift.
mindset.
It really, it's a mindset, but it comes from a gift. It comes from above. It's not from necessarily oneself. Obviously, there's ideological, like people can, convince themselves and be totally, into the reason to coming to live in Israel. And I think for a lot of people who are not religious, that's what it is. It's an ideological, it's a national kind of movement and things like that. But beyond that, from a spiritual level, I think there's a bigger reason. And you talked about the times of Mashiach, the Messianic times. That's really what it all boils down to. And, whether you believe it or not, that's what's happening. That is what's happening. And I think for thousands of years and in our daily prayers, talking about the returning of the exiles, and that's one of the fundamentals of the Torah, that's what's happening. And I think everyone agrees to that. I don't think there's anyone who, well, maybe there's like two cards who dispute that, but everyone agrees that that's really the phenomenon that people from all around the world for the last 150, 200 years have been flocking to Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah, that's a great point that I don't think is brought up enough. And I bring it up sometimes because I argue both sides of this with my friends, so like you said, there's 3 opinions, there's 6 opinions. Well, I myself have about 6 opinions on any given subject. So people say, "Oh, it's the Zionists built the country or whatever." I'm like, you've got Ma'arba Kamfis, it's people are coming from the whole world for 2,000 years. I mean, think about even people in Syria and Lebanon, in 1948 and in the 50s, when they started, they were literally living near Israel for 1,000 years, like on the border, and they've never got. And suddenly, a torrent, waves of people started moving. So you can't deny that. That's the fact. Those are the facts on the ground. So to argue with that and say, "Oh no, it's not the time," blah blah blah, is silly. But I guess there's a difference between taking it from a philosophy to a like a militant type of policy. Like, you must live here. You suck.
So I just want to say, I think it's funny you pick, like me and Yonah, we obviously come from extremely different backgrounds. We came to Israel in extremely different ways, but the fact is that we're both here, and I think it's just we're both, as a Jew, like for me personally, I don't, first of all, I don't judge anybody for not living in Israel. I do try to encourage people to make Aliyah, but after living here 14 years, I'm also very aware of the fact that it is difficult here, and some people, I'll never say no, a certain type of family or somebody should not make Aliyah. I do believe that everybody can make Aliyah if you want to. There are ways there, but you also have to realize, like, you give up stuff when you make Aliyah. If anybody could just be mindful of the fact that you're going to come here, and the house is going to be different, the food's going to be different, the air is different. It's just if you could,
taxi
if you
drivers
could deal with that.
are definitely different.
Oh, I thought you were going to say taxes. Taxes.
That too. But there's so many differences. Everything, like the culture of people.
It's the Middle East. It's like my son said to me recently. He goes, Abba, I was thinking about it. We're allowing the Western world to dictate what we do here in Israel, like on a political level, and it's impossible to do that, because just like the taxi drivers are very different here than they are in New York City or in America, wherever, the whole culture here is just different. And that's why an American, until you live here, and again, I live in Americanville, Ramat Beit Shemesh. It is very American, but at the end of the day, it's Israel, and there's tons of Israelis here, and we still have to deal with the culture. It's just really different here. And if anybody can overcome the challenges, a lot of the challenges are because it's a different culture. So if you're willing, I never thought the house that I live in, it's tall and narrow. In America, everybody wants wide houses with lots of space. It's hard as a realtor. I see a lot of people, they have a hard time wrapping their head around that. But the people that do, that just say, okay, this is Israel. It's just different. They make Aliyah and they're successful and they're very happy. So while I say Aliyah is not necessarily, not everybody should or not everybody could make Aliyah, but in a sense, they really can. Even no matter where you were brought up from, you can as long
It's
as you
interesting
recognize the
because
challenges.
you talk about the size of the houses. Ellie sent me yesterday a new development, an RBS with swimming pools, like gorgeous houses, like wide and
Mm-hmm.
broad. And then this morning, my wife showed me an apartment in Miami. Just saying, choices.
Which home has kedusha? I personally like to lead a meaningful life. Out of all the challenges that I've had here in Israel, I literally think once that I actually seriously came home and said to my wife, "We're going back to America. If X happens, we're going back to America." But all the other challenges that I've gone through, it's challenging. But wait, I want to continue leading a meaningful life. I don't see myself. And looking back to when I lived in America, I didn't,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a totally different person, by the way. Then I looked more like Yonah. I had a beard and payas when I first made Aliyah, like if you could believe that. And but I look back, I was not leading a meaningful life.
Incredible. It's almost like you can live a meaningful life in wherever you are, but it's easier to do it in Israel, and you
Mm,
get more credit, so to speak.
I don't know
It's
if easier is
enhanced.
the best word. I don't know if it's enhanced. It's enhanced.
Yeah.
You feel a closeness to Hashem. I have a neighbor. His name is Amir Lehrer. He's a tremendous Talmid Chacham. I call him the most underrated Jew ever. You won't find him much on social media, but the guy is literally a walking Sefer Torah. I don't know how he does it. And he said to me, he goes, you feel the closeness to Hashem here because in Chutz La'aretz and anywhere, it could be in America, London, wherever, like, yeah, we're all Jews, we're all Hashem's children, but in a sense, don't be insulted by this. In a sense, Hashem is saying to people in Chutz La'aretz, I love you, you're my child, but like, you're good, and I'm not gonna, you don't need me so much. I don't, we're close,
Is it
but
like
here in Israel, you kind of all the challenges that we go through, it's Hashem calling out to you and saying, "Come closer to me." And I think Yonah will agree that I think you feel it on a daily basis here. I'm
I
sorry to
like
get
that because
all like mushy and all,
no
but yeah,
no I like that.
that's
You're saying it's like elderly parents, and they have the daughter that lives upstairs or right next door or down the block, and then the kids that chose to move an hour away, and it's like they
exactly.
love them all equally, but she's there, she's taking care of us on a daily basis. Now maybe she gets yelled at more often too, right?
Yeah,
But much closer. I like that.
there's
I like that.
perks. There
That's
are
a good.
perks.
So you guys both got into the in the same industry, sort of. You're both in real estate to one on one side of it or the other. Um, did that start in Israel? I mean, Yonah, I guess for you it did, because you started everything there.
Basically,
How long
except for
have you
the
been
beard growing.
and how do you so Yonah, how do you juggle living there and working in I guess is it American real estate that you deal with?
Yeah, so that's probably a really important point about, just in general, talking about one of the biggest challenges about living in Israel is parnasa, is finding a job, is making ends meet. Let's talk about finding a job, making ends meet, right? Because even if you have two jobs, it may be difficult to do that. And so for me, currently, I work in American real estate world, which means I work remotely, and I'm working on night hours. Right now it's, what time is it? My
It's
clock.
early for him.
Yeah, my clock is on Eastern time, so I don't even know what time it is in Israel.
As someone once said to me, Yonah is the king of cost segregation.
There you go. The cost say king. But that came just after many years of having lived here. I spent the first 14 years essentially of living here, learning full time in Kollel and teaching in various forms of that. And some people like to say that they come to Israel to learn, and after they get married or whatever, and then when the money runs out, So they get a job or they go back or whatever it is. So for me, when the money ran out, I kept learning for another like 10 years. The truth of the matter is I never had money to begin with. I was broke to begin with. And I didn't have anyone supporting me, which made it as difficult, and found myself in, tremendous debt and tremendous, financial burden with a growing family, and decided, based on a lot of things that happened in my life at the time, I needed to, I was working, I was tutoring, I was teaching. So I had some, income, but at the same time, it was not, anywhere close to making ends meet. And that's one of the biggest challenges of living in Israel. But I decided, I'm going to figure it out, find something to do. And I just put my foot in the water and got into real estate, ended up doing, actually for about a year and a half, working in Israeli real estate. I got my realtor's license as well. But as Donny can probably attest to, working, and this goes back to the cultural thing, working with other brokers, it's extremely challenging. Yeah. Extremely challenging. And the housing market in general in Israel is very difficult. But it's very hard to find people that are, you can actually work with. And then, I hashgacha pratis completely. It's all divine providence that I ended up meeting someone and then getting introduced and whatever, networking, and then came to work for the company I work for now, which is a firm company based in Lakewood, Madison Commercial Real Estate, biggest title companies in the country. And I do the consulting, which is phenomenal, which I knew almost nothing about. And without getting into that, it gave me the ability to, be able to spend time learning in the morning, working, spending time with the kids and working at night. And that, obviously only working 4 days a week, because on Friday, it's basically no work. And on Sunday, America doesn't work. So there's not really much to work, which gives you a lot more time. So
that's amazing. I didn't think about that. You got the Friday.
Yeah. So, Friday is like sometimes a half a day anyways, but it gives me at least more flexibility in that regard. And one of the things, it's a balance. Obviously, it's difficult to work during the night hours, but you get used to it. It's a different schedule.
And Donny, you do work in the local Israeli market, and you are, I guess, working with other brokers, Israeli brokers, and then banks and all that stuff. Do you primarily do? By the way, do you primarily do residential or you do commercial as well?
I focus on residential, and when I first started in real estate here, I said I'm going to conquer the country, and then I slowly realized, I quickly realized actually,
from the river to the sea, Donny.
Yeah, Donny will be free.
Okay.
It's so like to get from Ramat Beit Shemesh to Netanya or Renan or other Anglo communities, or even Modi'in, like to show one house, it could take a day. It's the whole day, just one meeting. And I really started this just right at the beginning of Corona. That's how I got it. That's how I got into real estate. I was in a different part of real estate for about 7 years. And then when Corona started, I was getting phone calls because friends knew that I was in the real estate world. I was not a licensed realtor. And then I got one phone call. By the third phone call, a friend called me. I was driving to Jerusalem with my wife. And I said to her, because of Corona, what I was doing before, which is kind of like investments, it basically took a major downturn, and I don't know what I was going to do. So by that third friend that called me, I turned to my wife and I said, I think Hashem is giving me a sign. I'm going to become a realtor. And I said to her, I'm going to become the best damn realtor that this country has ever seen. And from an ethical and an honesty perspective, kind of just turn it all around. Everything you've ever heard about Israel real estate, I'm going to turn it on its head. And that's been my things. Every move I make is just talking and thinking that way, to be transparent also. And my wife said to me, she goes, I've been telling you to do this for years. To get the license was, as Yonah will tell you, extremely difficult. I'm not going to go into that now, but there was like a tremendous amount of siyata dishmaya brought me to where I am today. And Hashem sent me an incredible partner, Rob Ernst, who is the polar opposite of me. He's literally like, is the straightest arrow. And he's a finance guy, and he's a lawyer. Just whereas I'm like the ADD guy, and just always from one thing to the next, he keeps me focused. So Donny, very thankful.
What is the going rate for an American style, as much as possible? American style home in more of an Americanish community, if Joel was considering moving to Israel, where would you tell me to move, and what kind of house, and what kind of price point? Three questions.
So I'm a big fan of Ramat Beit Shemesh. I feel like, we mentioned before about kibbutz galios, and we're definitely witnessing a kibbutz galios. And I think Ramat Beit Shemesh is really representative of every type of Jew. I don't think that there's a type of Jew that doesn't live in Ramat Beit Shemesh, and everybody could find their place here. But that doesn't mean that Ramat Beit Shemesh is for everybody. There's lots of other places, depending on your budget, depending on your hashkafa, that you want to go. A lot of people that are Torah oriented want to come to Ramat Beit Shemesh. There's so much going on here. There's so much learning here. Lots of people. I have tons of friends here that are literally learning all day. I have multiple friends that are in the base medrash till 2:00 in the afternoon. Then they go home and have their night jobs. I don't know when they sleep. I really like these guys are working till 2:00 in the morning, and then they're in the base medrash at 7:00 in the morning. That doesn't leave much time for rest. I know multiple guys that do that.
So you tell me to go RBS because I'm Torah oriented. So you're saying
okay? So let's say we allow Joel to move to RBS.
Okay.
And so for example, so
what's
the
it gonna
big
cost?
houses,
like a town.
Big houses are
town,
expensive. If you want a house, the biggest type of house that you could buy here is upwards of 10 million shekel. You're talking $3 million, three and change $1 million. That's a big chunk of change.
Wow.
And you're still not getting the land that you have where you live now. You're getting a house. It's a pool. It's a private house. Nobody. My house is semi-attached. We just sold a house this past week. It's let's say about 200 square meters. So let's say just over 2,000 square feet, 2 floors. It's semi-attached. It's attached on one side. It's sold for just above 6 million shekels. So $2 million and change for this house.
Okay, you convinced me.
It's a lot of money. So people are always looking for other places, but at the end of the day, the choices that you have here in terms of schooling, the schools here are there are a lot of schools here to choose from. There's a lot of different people that you could.
Yeah, I guess it's like everywhere else. I just want to move on. I have like 17 other things, and people will be like, "Okay, is this a RBS fire sale over here?" But I guess
they can watch it they can watch it the way they watch Daf Yomi on 2-speed.
But I guess it's supply and demand. So if you go to a popular place where you have infrastructure, you're going to pay more, and like everywhere
simple
else.
Supply and demand here.
So the culture you already, I just wrote down, like you already kind of discussed it. I want to talk about the army because it's an interesting topic.
Mm-hmm.
So Donny, I know he's got Ozzy is in the army because he posts about him all the time, and Yonah, I have no idea what I don't know how old your kids are, but I'm assuming
Yonah has an IDF uniform under his jacket.
Right.
Well, be surprised. But what I know things have changed now in terms of perception and in terms of unity, in terms of people feeling like every Jew in the land is doing something, or at least, if before it was at 10%, now it's at 40% in terms of how people feel, how confident people feel. Not confident. What's the word?
Unified.
That's like the metric of
the morale.
Not really. In other words, you've got like 10 different types of people living in the country, and before it was horrible how everyone felt like the other one was doing something wrong, living their life wrong, and now that has come up, right? Where there's more of a feeling of, no, I understand.
Unity. There's unity. Yeah.
There's unity. So they don't even question what do Haredim do, what do Chalonim do. Everyone's got their roles. Is that how the country, as outsiders, right? No matter where you are in the spectrum, you don't understand how there are people that are sacrificing, life and limb, and others that don't. And it like, as even to an outsider that could be anti-Zionist, they still won't understand it. Like, how do you live in a country together, and certain people feel like they're contributing everything, and and they feel like others don't. And
So
then
I want to just kind of I don't like to talk politics too much, and I think this is a very politically charged question because a lot of the stance is based on picking and choosing certain facts or certain things. Like, yes, there has been since the beginning of the state, the rabbis were very against people joining the army for one, I think, very important reason. Several other important reasons, but one main reason is that the army was one of the intentions of the army was to and the state of Israel at the very beginning was to indoctrinate people away from the Torah, away from Judaism, and away from keeping mitzvahs. And I have an uncle who was brought up in yeshiva, a Sephardi, and he went to the army. He told me he's completely secular guy now, but he told me, before you go to the army, you say Shabbat Shalom, right? After you go to the army, you say Shalom to Shabbat. That's his thing. And
it's so sad. I'm laughing.
It's very sad. So I think that was fundamentally, and that's one big thing. Now, without getting too politically charged,
no, I don't even.
If you look at
Yonah, I don't even want to go there. I'm just saying, like, in terms of the emotional feeling of like me and Donny are different, but we're really the same, and we can identify with each other's contributions.
Right.
That's kind of like, and I feel like that's happening, whereas there's less, and I'm just curious, like, how did that transition happen? When people are losing their kids, you would think that there's even more, what's the word? Not diversity.
Adversity.
I'm bad with words. I really probably should not be a podcast host. But
you should always have at least one wordsmith on the podcast.
Yeah, but you would think there'd be more division.
Right.
Now, like, hey, look, my nephew just died. Whatever, terrible stuff. So, but the opposite happens. Why is that? Like, why is when there's a war, everyone's like, oh, now I understand that what you do, learning Torah and doing mitzvahs and what's that?
I can't. If I could just chime in, I can't say for other past wars. I've never been here for a war before. This is my first one, and hopefully it'll be the last one. But I could tell you that from day one, from a personal perspective, as soon as on October 7th at night, I said to my wife, "This is a holy war." Like, it was so recognizable from day one, from the first minute. I don't know if because we were in the middle of Simchas Torah, it was Shabbos, there was just this feeling of, this is not just a war. This is a holy war. And like, it was like almost like immediately people came together. I think it kind of goes back to why are we in Eretz Yisrael? There's this Kedusha here. Why are there so many different types of Jews here? And it attracts so many different, there's this Kedusha, and we all have this Pintel Yid in us. And it's like a magnet, and we just attract. So I think that's what happened in the beginning of the war is everybody just naturally came together because we're unified against one monster of an enemy. This is not about a Haredi, a Chiloni, a Dati Leumi. This is like, so a Jew. I once met an atheist once in my life, and he was Jewish. I met him at the Dead Sea. And I was talking to him, and I said to him, I don't understand. How could you be an atheist? And all four of my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. So you have to realize like where it's coming from. That's how I grew up. And I said to him, like, just letting you know. And I left him with this: if Hitler comes again, just like he's coming for me, he's coming for you. So you can be an atheist all you want, and it doesn't change the fact that you're a Jew. So here in Israel, I think it immediately became recognizable, the fact that like we're all Jews and we all need to band together and make in order to defeat the enemy.
We'll be right back to this episode, but first, a little bit about our brand new sponsor. I'm very excited about this. Josh Cohn from Empion. Empion is a great company who I know very well. And they do HR and payroll software for home care, ABA, nursing homes. It's an amazing user-friendly software tool. They have absolutely amazing customer support. They've got a great team. They work with all kinds of businesses, and they want to work with you. Give Josh a call or reach out to him, and he will give you an amazing experience. To reach Josh, check out his contact details in the show notes below. And now back to the episode.
So there's not even like a it's not a political thought process or a theological thought process. It's simply, who cares? We're
Exactly.
all family and we're all
One
together.
people, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and then like it was immediately, just to go back, because I think it's just incredible. Like, within the first week, we heard about Chiloni soldiers that were asking for tzitzis, that were asking for tefillin, and who ever thought that would happen? I hope, and I'm saying this publicly, and I hope the right person hears this out there, that when the war is over, and Mitzvah Hashem, it will be over, and we will destroy the enemy, and there will always be enemies for the Jews, but we'll have the Beis Hamikdash. But I hope that those kiruv organizations that have been set up for years, they've been pretty good with keeping Jews connected. There's tons of Jews, unfortunately, that are completely off. That they're going to be there for the soldiers when the war is over. These soldiers that have just recognized their spark, that these kiruv organizations or somebody's there to carry them, so that we can continue this unity well after the war. That's really, I really hope that.
I think absolutely. I mean, look, I think even 1%, an increase of 1%, is already incredible. In other words, 100,000 people started wearing tzitzis. I mean, if 1,000 continue, it's absolutely incredible. I was laughing 100%. Back then when you said about the supply, the demand for tzitzis, because I posted on status, and I think you did too. We desperately need green tzitzis. It's like, it's the funniest thing out of context. Like, it reminded me of the COVID, the all kinds of weird requests. And for like 4 days or 5 days, there was no green tzitzis anywhere to be found. I guess, was it 2 months ago or so? And Donny, I know that you're still involved in sourcing stuff. I mean, you delayed the podcast because there was someone coming to pick up gear. Do you see that slowing down, or is there, from your perspective, where you are, do you see that demand is still crazy? People need stuff. People are donating stuff.
Yeah, the demand is still there. I think after, I don't even know, I lost count. What are we in, like 88 days or whatever it is? The demand is still there, but I think it's become almost like on an organized level where, there are organizations that are, I just went, this soldier that came to me tonight, his name is Tal Kiddishman, best last name ever. Kiddishman.
That describes me.
That's legit his last name. And
some say that in Tom's River, everyone's got a last name of Kiddishman, but
he goes, apparently his ancestors were. I'm like, I love it. Anyway, so we got him a vest with the plates and a new helmet, and he needed a shlucker, a water pack. And I had the vest, and I didn't have a helmet. I haven't been able to source helmet. I don't source things on a large level. I like to, I'll get. Personally, my machzan, I'll keep 5 vests for that random soldier that calls me. But, there are groups that are buying thousands at a time. I don't do that. I like to keep things little low scale, smaller scale, and a little hamish. But Leva Torah, which is a yeshiva near me, I didn't even know this until a few days ago. My son told me. They set up.
My son went there.
No way.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that place. I had no idea. That's so funny. So I used to live right around the corner from that yeshiva. It's it was a big part of my spiritual growth, living near there. I loved living near a yeshiva. Davening there Friday night is just next level. Anyway, so but they set up, because they have a lone soldier program. they set up a whole chamal, a whole machsan, a whole warehouse with anything a soldier can just walk in. You need a helmet, you need vest, you need gloves, you need
Wow.
they had Sharpie markers, anything that you get, they have it all set up over there. You walk in, you see, and then you walk out. My son walked out with like some goodie bags, food. It was so, it like, they didn't have that the first week of the war, so now, thank God, Baruch Hashem, they set up things like that. But there's still soldiers. There's still
So I
beef jerky. Beef jerky has become huge.
Beef jerky.
Soldiers are loving beef
I
jerky.
posted yesterday.
Shout out to my friend Itan Agoric and a few other people. Meat and Board. They're doing fantastic stuff. Getting Meat and Board. Khani.
Meat and Board raised like.
I forgot her last name. Yeah, they raised a ton of money and getting tons of beef jerky.
Yeah, I just got their link yesterday to post. So they raised plenty, and there's a few companies, right? And they're doing it locally as well, right?
Yep.
I was reading. It was actually printed in last week's AMI, in the AMI Living for women. I read that one, and they had a whole write up about these women. Like they're not sleeping. They're waking up at 4 o'clock to dry jerky.
So listen to this. Listen to this about I'm working since the beginning with these. I don't know. I think there's like 3 or 4 or 5 women from Lakewood and Tom's River. They are rock stars. We've brought over close to 300 duffel bags since October 7th of stuff for IDF and displaced families. They get donations. A couple of the women, I'm not going to say names, but they deserve so much credit. Their garage is just filled with stuff. They just keep unpacking duffel bags and sending them to Israel. And there's a woman that I'm working with here. She has a warehouse in Beitar, and she has a seminary. And these girls, they separate the bags. And I could go on forever about what these people are doing. It's unbelievable. It's mind-boggling. It's legit mind-boggling.
It's everywhere in Queens and in Muncie and in Chicago and LA and Miami. Everywhere there's active right now. I posted yesterday on my status, WhatsApp status to those that are not Jewish, that if you're in America or you're outside of Israel and you're not contributing in a physical way, in a material way, whether it's money, sending goods. Right, and it could be $5. It could be something, or even reaching out to one of these websites and sending a letter to a soldier or to a family. If you're, God forbid, the army, so send it to a family that's sitting shiva, whatever. If you're not doing something material, but you're saying, "Well, I daven for them," I'm like, you're no different than the secular Jew who says, "I don't eat Shabbos, I don't eat tefillin. I'm a Jew at heart. Me and God, we're very connected. Those people that are just, I don't need religion. Religion is just formalities. I'm very connected. I'm like, that's you. Because, imagine during the Holocaust, people said, I said the Shir Malis after davening. Yeah, but people are dying and people need, you can send a package to the Red Cross. They will deliver it to a death camp, which they did. And... no, I davened. So I just find it very, very, people are very disconnected from the fact that we need to actually contribute materially, which American Jews and I guess international Jews are really doing amazing work, and also for the Achdus part, like to show we're together, we're one. No matter if Jews are suffering. And they're suffering.
Yeah, but I wouldn't discredit the prayers and the mitzvahs that everyone's doing. I think that contributes.
You got to daven because you get daven.
No, but doing extra, taking on more. I think it's
amazing. I have a friend that texted me after that, and he says, I haven't eaten meat during the week since October 7th. I don't eat meat, and I said, your sacrifice is much greater than mine, but you still haven't given them something material, and maybe you should. And he says, I'm going to do beef jerky, and he got the meat and board link. So there's that element, of course. You have to, but that right. There's Muhammad, there's Matana, there's davening, but you can't just do one. That's what I'm saying.
Feeling tzedakah. It's all together. It's all together.
Money's always part of the equation with us Jews.
Listen, it's I see a lot of Jews all over the world. Everybody wants to do something. A lot of people just they don't know what to do. If you're not networked in like the Jewish world, then maybe just they don't know what to do. So I don't
Right.
know. I've learned as I get older, I realize I just stop focusing on the people that aren't doing things and just be whatever energy I would put towards them, focus that energy on the positive, which is the things that the people are doing. You're
But
posting on LinkedIn, raising money for Shai Groucher's initiative. Every There's not a Jew in Israel that's not doing something. I believe, and it's. I think that also, by the way, one thing we should discuss is one thing that this has done for the Jewish world as a whole is increase the Jewish pride. I don't know about you guys, but I've really never thought about my Jewish pride. Schlock Rock has a song about it. I think it's Schlock Rock, whatever it is. But I've never been so proud in my life to be a Jew. I actually learned. I'll tell you one thing. One thing that I learned from this war is I always wondered, like, why would somebody convert to Judaism? I never understood it. Like, why would somebody willingly want to like put all these laws on them? They don't have to. It's hard enough being a Jew and having to do everything. But I realized now through this war that showed me, like, there is no nation like the Jewish nation. And yeah, every non-Jew, they want to be a part of it. They saw that. They say the neshama was at Sinai. So maybe their neshama saw it, and that's what draws them closer to being a Jew. And that's another byproduct of this war.
You mentioned Shai, and then again, I'm not discrediting. I think it's a necessary prerequisite to daven and to learn, and like this guy is like no meat. What's so funny? My English. So I grew up very, very Hasidish, Donny. So I didn't go to yeshiva Flatbush. You had history. You had history as a subject.
I barely. History was a subject.
Grammar.
I probably learned as much in school as you did.
I was talking. You brought up Shai Groucher, who this morning we discussed that in his latest thing he bought a kid a pony, right? So the guy in shul is like, you see, that's weird. I'm like, no, that's what it is though. That's what elevated him, and that's how he's elevating the nation almost single-handedly, because he'll support a kollel and a Sefer Torah, and he'll get a pony. So that is what this is about. Like, everyone doing something for everyone else, and the lines like stop. It's interesting. It's one of the questions I wanted to ask, because I like to wear a rather large yarmulke, and I don't know, since ever, that's just my style. I think when I was younger, the Syrian boys in Brooklyn, I was like 19, 20. I used to hang out with the Syrian boys, and they had the big yarmulkes, and it was very cool. But in Israel, like, you can't get away wearing them unless you're like ultra Haredi. Otherwise you have to wear like a little tiny one that in Williamsburg they used to call it. My cousin used to call it a helicopter couple, because you have to go up with a chopper to see it. So I think it's like a purely Israeli thing where like you're divided by your kippah. Like it's an identification.
Yonah, what are your thoughts on that?
I have no idea.
It's an interesting thing. I'm just trying to.
I grew up wearing a kippah sruga. I went through a phase where I was wearing a velvet kippah. I wear this type of kippah because I feel like this is the most neutral. It's just a neutral kippah. I'm not.
What's that, like the Ben Shapiro edition?
Something like that. I don't know, but it's not. Listen, I'm not Datilo me. I'm not Haredi. When I first made Aliya, I had a lot of like religious issues. I didn't know really what I was getting myself into. And I remember I called Rabbi J. Marcus up there in Gazelle, Staten Island, and I said to him, Rabbi Marcus, please help me. What the heck is going on over here? And he goes, Donny, in Israel, everything's black and white. He goes, and you, my friend, are gray.
Wow. So he knew that you were eventually going to be a guest on this podcast.
I guess so.
I mean, you're probably in a. Well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't assume. Are you in a more insular community, or is there diversity? Obviously, Yerushalayim is full of diversity. I guess it's the most
Well,
diverse city in the world.
yeah, right. Not exactly, but there is. That's true, but it's kind of split up into neighborhoods. So the neighborhood that I live in is very Haredi, like very Hasidic, very great place to be and to grow up and to have kids, etc. And I work pretty close by, so I work in a place called Har Chotzfim, which is an office park basically in the outskirts of the northern part of Jerusalem, and I interact with people from all walks of life in that area. And again, my entire business and daily life is on Zoom and with people in America, mostly non-Jewish people. So I have a less of a perspective on what's actually going on in Israel because my daily life is basically going to shul, going learning, going home, and then coming to the office, which I'm basically in America on that side. So I'm not too involved in, like I said, the political side of things, and don't have too much connection to that. But I do want to just reiterate and agree with you on the point about the achdus, about the oneness that I've seen and has really come to the forefront, even more so now than ever. Because there's always people, yes, there are people that look at you differently, and depending on how you dress or whether it's your kippah or how, what color your shirt or coat or no coat or whatever it is. But unfortunately, that exists in every society. But I think here, when you can look beyond that and just see the person and hopefully connect to the fact that we are so much more alike and have so much more in common than we have differences, then that's really the solution for peace and prosperity and oneness.
We should have ended it here, but we said we're going to get back to the daf. So Yonah, how long have you been doing the daf?
So true story. Not that
Ma'aser Shahaya.
Ma'aser Shahaya. I was sitting by the Joel pit in Tom's River. I think at that time when you were living in Tom's River.
I still am.
Well, you moved in the interim.
I did,
right?
and then you went back. There's a Joel pit. Don't worry.
It's still a Joel pit. So we're sitting by the fire pit, and this was a couple years ago, a little over 2.5 years ago, probably. And you were like, "Hey, you heard this guy Eli Stefanski?" And I'm like, "No, never heard of him." You pull out your phone, show me this video. Like, this guy has a Daf Yomi shir, and he reads emails and he makes jokes and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm not really so interested in it. I do my own learning and this. I never really was interested in the Daf. I learned the Daf Yomi for a while, the last cycle, and then fell off. And then I actually watched, one shir. It was in Sukkah at the time. I was like, okay, Joel Wallace is a good idea. This was in Tom. It was right before your son's bris, if you remember.
Oh, okay. So it's 2 years ago.
Thomas,
right.
2.5 years ago.
I moved twice since then, by the way.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And watched, I was like, nah, this is not for me.
Wow.
and then I was like, you know what? About 6 months later or so, 8 months later, I was like, you know what? I really want to start doing the daf. And it was in Moed Katan at the time. I was like, okay, I've learned Moed Katan a bunch of times. I can do it. And Chagiga, it's the next Masechta, really easy. I'm like, Yavamas. I learned Yavamas before, but I would probably never, without Daf Yomi, I said to myself, I would probably never, ever learn Yavamas again.
Or finish it.
Yeah. Well, I think if I started, I would probably finish, but I was like, I would never do it again. So I was like, you know what? This is probably the best time to start because it's Mechayev myself, and so that's when I started basically with in Chagiga, and then
that's crazy.
From the beginning of Amos, haven't missed a day. Baruch Hashem.
Donny,
so Joel, did you get a free Gemara?
No, I don't get free.
By the way, I got to take credit for that, and I got to give credit. By the way, this was not like a layup. I had no idea that you were doing it, and I don't even remember talking to you about it. But I got on.
Great story.
I got on to Reb Eli back then. And he pushed me to do the daf because I saw him on Nachi Gordon's thing. So I told Nachi that he gets credit for me, and now he gets credit for you too, and anyone else that came through my status. So Donny, how long have you been doing the daf?
So first of all, I did the daf yomi I think like 4 or 5 cycles ago till Baba Metzia when I lived in Queens.
Wow.
And then totally like I hadn't picked up a Gemara since then, for sure. I'm not a Gemara learning type of guy. I'm not much of a learner. I like to learn, just random stuff. Anyway, so and then this cycle, I got like excited about it, and I started brachos actually with Rabbi Rosner, and I did that. And then my friend Avi Kamiansky, a good friend of mine, lives here in Ramat Beit Shemesh. You see him in Shira every morning, and he's been pushing me to come to Eli Stefanski's daf, and I was like, no, it's not for me. I'm not interested. And then he got me to come to the siyum, the bracha siyum, and it was in a hall here in Ramat Beit Shemesh, and the place was packed, and the energy was fantastic. And so then basically the next day, Shabbos, Amud Beis, I started, and I can't say that I've never missed a daf. I've missed many dafim, but really the reason why I'm continuing is because of Eli's ideology. Like, it's not about the daf, it's about the Yomi. For me, I'm literally the typical guy. Like, if I'm going to miss 3, 4, 5 days, I'm going to try to make it up, or I'm like, that's it, I give up. But Eli kind of like took that guilt away from me. If I miss a few days, and I still miss a few days every once in a while, I try to make it up, but like sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Guilt free. It's like I've ran one full marathon in my life. When I crossed the finish line, I thought my entire body was going to fall apart. I was in so much pain, head to toe. I trained for it. Like, I really trained for it, but it was in Tel Aviv and it was hot. But I wasn't upset. I said, because I just did something that 99.999% of the world has never done and probably will never do. So same thing with the daf. When I show up at the daf in the morning, I'm doing something that like 99.9% of the world doesn't do and probably will never do. And for me, that's motivating for me. But also what I like to say what the daf has done for me, it's really kept me, what's the word? Not scheduled, but it's given me a schedule in the morning. Consistency. I wake up in the morning. I go to shul. I daven before the shiur. I go home, and I feel like $1 million. Like, oh my god, I just davened and learned. It's 8:00 in the morning. Like, I have the rest of the day.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. For me, it's a 6-minute walk. It's a 6-minute walk from my house to door to door. I mean, it's such a bracha.
But you can't say that you sat in the hot tub with your coffee also on top of all that. I could, because I live in Tom's River. Donny, there are advantages.
I could say other things, just not on the podcast.
Okay. And by the way, it's a way I kind of look at fitness, right? When you want to work out, but then I didn't do it for 3 days, so like I'm off the wagon, and that's terrible. And the point is, you do it every day, and when you don't do it every day, you don't do it, but you do it every day. Like, the philosophy
there is no wagon. There is no wagon. I think that's a trick. It's the Satan. It's the Yitzhahara. There is no wagon.
But I'll tell you what.
Everybody, every day. What was that?
No, it's interesting. I'll tell you what worked for me, because I am the least consistent, or I was the least consistent person I know with everything. And when I started 2.5 years ago, I happened to have been 2 daf ahead, and because that's where I was up to in I don't know where. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But I was learning, and I was learning Masechta probably for a year. I don't know, a year. And I was never, getting to finish. And I started, and then I decided I'm always going to stay 1 daf ahead. And that's how I'm known at MDY, the 1 daf ahead guy.
Yeah.
But
it's awesome. I don't know how you do it. It's actually fantastic.
I'm a daf ahead every single day, and I have not missed a day. Like, I have not missed a day in 2.5 years. And if I can do it, I swear any person in the world can do it. And I don't always do it perfectly. Sometimes it's done Breslov style, where I'm just browsing. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just browsing. But you get it done. And I think that also is very, very important. Just, if you can't, just read it, but don't miss it. Have that continuation, because that gives you such power. And then what's interesting, by the way, is that you find certain sugyas that you bump into it. You learned it, and you were just browsing when you learned it, but somehow you know it. Somehow, oh yeah, I know that sugya, and it's incredible. So I want after this, Yonah has to go. You have to go to this year. You need to be there live. Can we make that happen?
Let's put Yonah. When are you coming? Let's put it like
put me on the spot.
Come on. If you don't set a date now, like you're not you're not going to show up. So like today's Wednesday, Tuesday. I don't even know what day it is.
How's Mitzvah Shabbos? How's your schedule?
Still October. It's October 85th.
Not going to happen. One day.
One day.
The problem is, and I'll tell you the real problem. I usually listen to the shiur in like 1.5 or 1.75 speed. So going in person, I think I'll just fall asleep.
Well, that's why
just going for the you just going for the
people come for the coffee.
Just going for the coffee. Just going for the get over here.
Come for the coffee, and you may learn the daf.
Right.
I'd love to see that happen. By the way, you can leave after the selfie.
Listen, how about this? When you come, I'll go with you together.
So I was just about to say that. I'm finally, very quietly working on a trip. It's in development. So that's a chef.
How many duffels can you take?
Right. I already committed to the guys in Queens. So, guys, it's been a massive pleasure to have both of you on at the same time. It really got the vibe. Yonah and I get together like once a year or whatever, and we just, if we don't do it in person, we never do it. It paid to do it just to hang with you. And Donny, obviously, we talk more often these days, but just having you on and having this discussion, I think it was eye-opening in a lot of ways. And we may have like black and white opinions, but we all got into the gray area together, and I think we can all understand different perspectives. And I think that's what we're trying to accomplish here, and we've done it.
Thank you, Joel, for having us. And I think this was a fantastic idea. I would actually, if you ever want to do this again, this is going to be a long war, and it honestly for me, it's been over an hour. It just feels good to having spoken about it. It's difficult here in Ramat Beit Shemesh. I'm hearing planes all day, bombs all the time, and this was actually kind of like therapeutic for me. I'll be honest with you. So it felt good. So
Beautiful.
Thank you for that.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching another episode of The Gray Area. Looking forward to the next one. In the meantime, I'd love to get some feedback. I'd love to hear your critique, your positive, your negative. Bring it all on. And maybe we'll feature your feedback in our next episode. Keep on watching, subscribe, follow, and just become an obsessed Gray Area fan. I appreciate that.